Hi guys, so this module is so deutsch wie möglich. It's all about putting all the rules that we have learned together, but also trying to see where we can improve some things, change some things so that we sound as German as it is possible. After having learned all the rules, it is now important to note that sometimes you don't need to follow the rules to the T. You can, of course, change a few things like we all do in our mother tongues. If we speak English almost as a mother tongue, we change many things here and there as we speak in day-to-day life, some things we pick up from friends, from other people, etc. And same thing you must do with German. One thing that happens to German learners is that they, as a foreign language, you get stuck in the rules, and that stops the language from becoming your own. So this is about making the language your own, altering the rules a little bit so that you might sound as if German flows in your blood. One of the first words that we are going to take a look at in this is this one, fairly important. All of you know that the pronunciation is Entschuldigung, correct? Ent is a prefix that's not separable, that's why we don't stress it, and the stress goes on should. Now, the thing is, most often if you'll hear a native speaker speak this, he or she will not say the whole word. You will not hear Entschuldigung. Mostly, you're going to hear Entschuldigung. So just say after me, Entschuldigung. Yeah, you'll see Entschuldigung, but you must say Entschuldigung. A similar word is the preposition entlang. People rarely say hier entlang. Rather, people say hier lang. That end is literally left off. Taking the same principle further, this word, which is an article in accusative, you know this, einen, which in a sentence might look like this: Hast du einen Kuli? Mostly, you will have a case where people will not read out the whole word or say the whole word. Instead, they'll only say Hast du den Kuli? So instead of einen, you simply say nen. Hast du nen Kuli? Hast du nen Kuli? The reason is that when we are speaking, we generally tend to speak very fast in our own mother tongues. We generally tend to instinctively avoid repetitions or redundancies. We try to get to the next word or to the point quickly. So just saying nen is enough, because that ein part, that I part, is common to all the three articles. Whether it is ein etwas, eine etwas, einen etwas, ein is not going to differentiate it. The ending is going to differentiate it. That's why it's important to just stress that. Hast du nen Kuli? Repeat after me. Hast du nen Kuli? Taking the same principle further, instead of hast du, speaking fast, we simply say hast. Hast is a short form of hast du. You know this from English as well. Instead of saying I am, you can simply say am. I'm doing fine. Similarly here, hast du nen Kuli? You can say hast du nen Kuli? Hast. Practice this. Over time, it becomes second nature and it feels very good. Let's take a look at the next example. Now, if you were to pronounce it as it were, you would say haben wir das gemacht? Once again, haben wir das gemacht? But that's too long. Generally, you will hear the Germans say haben wir das gemacht? So, haben wir becomes haben wir. Haben wir das gemacht? Haben wir das gemacht? Ja, haben wir. The correct answer actually would be ja, wir haben es gemacht. But in a conversation, a reply to this question would simply be, ja, haben wir. Haben wir gemacht. Now, an answer to this question, hast du einen Kuli, might be, ich habe keinen Kuli. Again, that's too much. That's literally specifying and enunciating almost every single syllable, which is what native speakers will not do. So instead of saying ich habe keinen Kuli, very often you will see that people say ich hab. Not ich habe, but ich hab. Ich hab keinen Kuli. Ich hab keinen Kuli. And that's what lets us combine the two words to get quickly to the next. So instead of saying ich habe, you say ich hab. Practice it. It's fun to say ich hab keinen Kuli. Hast du einen Kuli? Ich hab keinen Kuli. The next one would be machen wir weiter. Just as we saw in the previous one, instead of saying haben wir, we say here machen wir. But if we shorten it, we'll say haben wir das gemacht. Similarly here we'll say machen wir weiter. Machen wir, machen wir, machen wir. Machen wir weiter, machen wir weiter. In fact, if you pay attention, you might only hear mach wir, mach wir, machen wir. Machen wir weiter? Ja, machen wir. That's what happens. And once you start getting a hang of it, you will also start understanding things that you probably earlier would not understand. So practice saying this. That will not only improve your spoken German, but also help you with Hörverstehen. Let's go further. One thing, when we did Vokal plus R, AR, we said that there is a nice curve towards it. We say AR. The pronoun itself is AR. All the words that will have AR here generally would be like with this curve. But if AR comes at the end, as is the case in so many professions, especially for the masculine gender, we don't pronounce it as er, rather we pronounce it as o. So this word would be Schüler. Schüler. Now, it sounds very similar to Schule. So what's the difference apart from the U and the U umlaut? What's the difference? You see, when it is Schule, which means school, the is not particularly long. It's not short, but it's not long either. You say Schule. But in this word, it's very slightly longer than the previous one. Here we say Schüler. It's L. You say L and then open the mouth slightly. Schüler. Similarly, this one would be Lehrer. Ich bin Lehrer. Lehrer. R. Okay? Lehrer. Going on to the next. This one is a favorite of mine. If you see this word, you know that the pronunciation is going to be beschäftigt, and the B will not be stressed, so it will be beschäftigt. La la la. Beschäftigt. Now, normally, if it is ig at the end, we know that we pronounce it as ich, but here it is ig and a t, and so mostly we are going to pronounce the g as g. So the pronunciation will be beschäftigt. But many Germans still say here beschäftigt, and this is something that's really music to my ears. This is something that I had not learned when I was learning German. I have seen people say this, and I got it, and I thought, wow. And once I understood it, I heard that almost everyone says like this. So if you say beschäftigt, it is absolutely not wrong, it's correct, but I prefer beschäftigt. Beschäftigt. Ich bin sehr beschäftigt. By the same logic, this word would be entschuldigt, or this would be bestätigt, means confirmed. Er hat das bestätigt. Sounds Very nice. But the choice is up to you. See what you like. Moving on to the next one. This is important. We saw that when we did the kurze und lange Vokale, that the rules for long and short. Now here the word is straightforward. It's V-A-G. The pronunciation would be Weg. Or is it going to be Weg? What's the case? I don't know for what reason this word, Weg, with the small V, which means away, gone, is pronounced kurz. So there will be a dot under the A here. Pronunciation would be Weg. You say, ist schon weg. Means he's already gone. But this word, which means the way, the road, this is long. But this one, der Weg, this is long. So I have a slight trick to remember this. I have made a sentence for myself, and the sentence reads, der Weg ist lang, which means the road is long, the way is long. And that's very often the case, and it's also a very nice trick for me to remember. So Weg, when it comes as a prefix for verbs or to mean that somebody is already left, will be short, Weg. And der Weg ist lang. But remember, Weg or Weg ends with a G, so the pronunciation will be K. So you should hear the K at the end of it. Weg, der Weg. Going on to the next one. The word for nightmare in German is actually Albtraum. A-L-B. Albtraum. But as we have seen earlier, if B comes at the end of a word or a syllable, its pronunciation changes to P. The word Albtraum has two syllables, Albtraum. So B is coming at the end of the first syllable, and that's why its pronunciation will be P. Albtraum. Albtraum. And that word almost exists in the dictionary. Actually, it is not A-L-P, but since it sounds like this, it has become a proper word. So while pronouncing, remember, it's Albtraum. Albtraum. This particular word should be pronounced as erinnern. La la la. A common mistake is that people say erinnern, and that is not the case. And actually, it's very easy to remember. Er is a prefix, so it should not be stressed at all. You say and then take your voice up for E, erinnern, because ultimately it's something that happens inside, you know. Erinnern means it lights up inside, and that's how this word should be pronounced. Erinnern. Ich erinnere mich, or Erinnerung, not Erinnerung. Probably you might have seen that sometimes there's confusion about whether it's double R or double N. If you focus on the pronunciation like this, you will never make that mistake, because it is as a prefix, and then it's an inner thing. Inner is similar to English. That's why it's a double N. Erinnern. Erinnerung. Remember that. Next one. This is a similar word. This is actually coming from French. That's why the pronunciation always, you just have to be careful around French words for their pronunciations. Now here, the double L is not going to be pronounced at all. It is not detailliert. We hear so many people spelling out this, pronouncing this incorrectly. It's not detailliert at all. Rather, it's detailliert. Detailliert. Because that LL just becomes like a ear in French. Yeah, taille. That means the waist. That's also spelled like this. It's called taille. Detailliert. Remember this. It's not detailliert, rather detailliert. The next one, the simple one, ein bisschen. Ein bisschen. A little difficult to say, isn't it? That's why we hear most often people saying ein bisschen. Ich spreche English, Hindi, Marathi und ein bisschen Deutsch. Bisschen. That bisschen is not good at all. Rather, there is a very nice trick. Again, I have learned it from the Germans themselves. They never say ein bisschen or ein bisschen. It's a simple ein bisschen. Sie. It's like a S-Y-E in English. Ein bisschen. That makes it simple to say and also makes it sound German. Ich spreche Englisch, Hindi, Marathi und ein bisschen Deutsch. By the same logic, this word, which means a kitten, Katze, and a kitten is going to be Kätzchen, not Kätzchen, Kätzchen. Ein bisschen, Kätzchen. So whenever you see maybe a double S followed by hen or a Z followed by hen, remember it's simply en. Ein bisschen, Kätzchen. Let's go on to the next one. So this is also a problem case. Is it faszinierend? Is it faszinierend? What is it? It's both, and that's what makes it difficult. So it's best to break it into the syllables. Faszinierend. Nierend we will just consider one for the moment because the difficulty lies in the first two. So the first one ends with an S, so call it fas. The second one begins with a Z, so you say zi. Faszinierend. Repeat after me. Faszinierend. Remember, it's ieren, that should be stressed, and there's a D at the end. Faszinierend. Okay, going on to next. For this particular word, people will generally put an extra Z when there is none. So it's a very simple Diskussion. Yeah. Again here, because it's an international word, the stress is towards the end, but there is no Z there. It's not Diskussion. It's Diskussion. Es gab eine Diskussion. Diskussion. Remember that and hop on to the next. This is very similar to English, and because of that we make a big mistake here. We keep calling it relative. We might do well to remember that it's tief, and it comes in the grammar relative Satz, relative pronomen, but it's not re at all. It's German, and the A should be pronounced as A. It should be re, relative pronomen, relative Satz. Yeah, so there are very many words that begin with re. Pronounce them as re and not as re. It's not reflektieren, it's reflektieren. It's reflexion. Okay, so all the words that begin with RA will be re and not re as in English. For example, even this one here, although it doesn't begin with RA, this word is kreativ. It's not creative. It's not cre, it's cre. Kreativ. Or the verb would be kreieren. Or the noun would be kreation or kreatur. Okay, so remember it. Once you get the concept, you can simply use it for all the verbs that employ the same spelling. When we talk of verbs in the infinitive, you know that almost all the verbs end with an an. Now, how do you pronounce it? For example, this word. Generally, you'll say machen or haben. Now, here the N should not be pronounced so it should not be enunciated so strongly. Rather, we should drop off the A and say machen. It's almost like mach and N. Machen. Hab and N. Haben. Haben. I'm probably not even opening my mouth to say that. Haben. Machen. Lernen. Sehen. Lesen. So we almost just say the N omitting the A, and we don't say the full N, not machen or haben. No, that doesn't sound very nice. So try to shorten it by simply adding an N. Hopping on to the next, we have certain verbs that do not have the an at all in the infinitive. It's just an N, like this one. We have sammeln, sammeln. Remember, the mm should not be pronounced twice. Instead, the vowel a should be short. Sammeln. Same is the case with this word, zusammen. Yeah, not zusammen, zusammen. The next one, another verb, lächeln. Fairly simple one. Or the next one is bummeln. So it's a fairly simple concept. It's just that you get to the heart of it and pronounce the words consciously. Now some words are similar to English. There's a slight variation. One of such words is this one. Normally, people tend to pronounce it as assoziieren. It's not zieren. So the word is assoziieren. Why does this happen? Because the ieren should not be mixed with this e. There are two e's in the sentence. There are two e's in the verb, and they should be pronounced separately. So it is assoziieren. Say it, assoziieren, and combine it, assoziieren. The same logic for this one. The verb is variieren, which means to vary. Variieren. Okay, and so the last one here is the long word that I had promised you at the beginning of this course. It's Eierschalen soll Bruchstellen verursachen. I love this word. This is a long word for a kitchen appliance. It's actually small. I often think that the word is bigger than the appliance itself. Let's break this and say it part by part till we get the whole thing. It begins with Eierschale, which means eggshell. So Eierschalen. That's a compositum there, so Eier should be pronounced. Eier should be stressed. So it's Eierschalen. Then the next word is a Bruchstelle. Say Bruchstelle. Bruchstelle is the place where something is broken. And it's a compositum. So it should be Bruchstelle. La la la. Bruchstelle. Now this word, something else will be added in the beginning. You say Sollbruchstelle. Say Sollbruchstelle. That means the place where it is supposed to break. Sollbruchstelle. Now let's combine it. Eierschalen Sollbruchstellen. That means the place where the eggshell is supposed to break. Eierschalen soll Bruchstellen. The word is not yet over. Wait for it. Verursache. Verursache means something that causes this to happen. So it's an instrument that you use to break the shell of an egg. Eierschalen soll Bruchstellen verursachen. What a lovely word. Eierschalen soll Bruchstellen verursachen. La 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 la. I don't know whether I got it right, but I think I did. Once again, repeat after me. Eierschalen soll Bruchstellen verursachen. That's it. So deutsch wie möglich. We are almost at the end of Akzentfrei. Learn these tricks, apply them, and speak so deutsch wie möglich. I'll see you in the next module.